They thought no aid was coming. Stranded on Xylos, a forgotten speck of a world in the outer fringes, the colonists of New Haven had broadcast their desperate plea for weeks. Their distress signal, a ghost in the static, whispered of failing life support, dwindling supplies, and the relentless encroachment of a Vorlag swarm. These insectoid monstrosities, a tide of chitin and acid, had descended upon their fledgling settlement without warning. The planetary defense grid, still under construction, had crumbled within hours. Now, they were huddled in the central biosphere, the last bastion against a planet that wanted them dead. Maria watched the sensor display, her face a mask of weary resignation. Each red dot represented a Vorlag entity, and the screen was a sea of crimson, slowly constricting around their tiny green island of life. "Anything?" asked Ben, his voice raspy from dehydration and fear. Maria just shook her head. The long-range comms had been silent for 12 standard days. Hope, once a blazing fire, was now a smoldering ember, threatening to extinguish with every passing moment. The younger children had stopped crying, now just sitting in a silent, listless daze. The adults wore the same hollow expressions. They had gambled everything on this new world, and they were about to lose. Suddenly, a new alert blared through the command center. A piercing shriek that cut through the despair. It wasn't a Vorlag signal. It was different. Unidentified energy signature, Maria announced, her fingers flying across the console. High-level tachyons, massive displacement. It's a void rupture. A big one. Everyone froze. A void rupture this far out? It could be anything: a pirate vessel, a slaver ship, or worse, a Vorlag hive mother. They held their breath, a collective gasp of terror and a flicker of insane hope. On the main view screen, the blackness of space tore open. A violent slash of impossible colors, a wound in the fabric of reality itself. From this swirling vortex of chaos, something emerged. It wasn't sleek. It wasn't elegant. It was a monster of metal, a brutalist masterpiece of gunmetal gray, scarred and pitted from 1,000 battles. Its profile was all sharp angles and heavy armor, bristling with weapon emplacements that seemed impossibly large. On its hull, stark white letters spelled out its name, HCS Indomitable. A human warship. A wave of disbelief, then overwhelming relief, washed over the command center. Some people cried openly, others laughed hysterically. They weren't forgotten. They weren't alone. "They're hailing us," Maria choked out, tears streaming down her face. She patched the signal through. A voice, calm and impossibly steady, filled the room. It was gravelly, seasoned by conflict, but it was the most beautiful sound they had ever heard. "New Haven Colony, this is Captain Eva Rostova of the Human Confederacy ship Indomitable. We read your distress call. Apologies for the delay. Traffic was a nightmare." A dry chuckle followed. "Hold tight. We're about to evict your uninvited guests." Outside, the Vorlag swarm paused, their collective hive mind sensing the new, immense threat in orbit. They looked up from their relentless assault, their multifaceted eyes reflecting the monstrous shadow that now blotted out the stars. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Rostova stood before the tactical display, a faint, predatory smile on her lips. "Gunnery, status report. All batteries online, Captain. Targeting solutions locked. We have a target-rich environment." "Magnificent," Rostova murmured. "Let's remind these bugs why you don't mess with humanity's kids. Open fire. All batteries." Space, silent moments before, erupted in light and fury. From the Indomitable, lances of pure energy, kinetic slugs the size of shuttlecraft, and swarms of self-guided missiles screamed down from orbit. The ground shook as the orbital bombardment found its mark. The Vorlag swarm, a force that had seemed unstoppable, was vaporized in great, swathing arcs of destruction. Entire sections of the advancing horde were simply erased, turned to superheated vapor and scorched earth. The colonists in the biosphere watched on their external cameras, mesmerized by the terrible, beautiful display of power. It was like watching gods hurl lightning from the heavens. But the Vorlag were not so easily defeated. The hive mind reacted, burrowing deep, trying to weather the storm from below. They were tenacious. "Captain," the tactical officer reported, significant portion of the swarm has gone subterranean. Orbital fire is becoming less effective. Rostova nodded, expected. They want to play hide and seek? Fine by me. Launch the wolves. From the Indomitable's cavernous hangar bays, dropships descended, sleek, black machines designed for atmospheric combat. They streaked through the alien sky, deploying their cargo, companies of human marines in powered armor. The wolves. Sergeant Kellen Hammervoss slammed his armored boots onto the alien soil. His helmet's HUD was already painting targets, highlighting burrow entrances and seismic disturbances. All right, wolves. We're on pest control. Standard sweep and clear. Let's make this quick. I'm missing dinner. His squad moved out with practiced, lethal efficiency. Their heavy rifles spat fire, tearing through any Vorlag that dared to emerge. Flamethrowers cleansed burrow entrances. The screams of incinerated aliens a symphony of retribution. The Marines were a force of nature unto themselves, a steel tide crashing against the chitinous one. They were not just soldiers, they were exterminators. Back in the biosphere, the colonists watched the Marines' helmet cams, broadcasted to them by the Indomitable as a sign of progress and reassurance. They saw humanity not as victims cowering in a dome, but as relentless, unstoppable warriors. They saw the methodical, overwhelming force that had been unleashed on their behalf. Every shot fired, every enemy neutralized, was a testament to a promise they thought had been broken, that humanity takes care of its own, no matter how far, no matter the cost. Hours later, the last of the Vorlag resistance was silenced. Sergeant Voss stood over the carcass of a brood queen, his armor spattered with alien viscera. Hammer to Indomitable. The ground is secure. Pests have been exterminated. The colony is safe. A collective cheer erupted in the biosphere, a sound of pure, unadulterated joy. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Rostova allowed herself a genuine smile. Well done, Hammer. Tell your teams to stand down and assist the colonists. We'll be sending down medical and engineering teams shortly. Maria opened the biosphere's main hatch for the first time in weeks. The air still smelled of ozone and scorched earth, but it was the smell of freedom. A Marine in colossal gray armor stood there, their helmet retracted. The face was surprisingly young, streaked with grime but smiling. Mum. Sergeant Voss. Heard you folks were having a bit of a bug problem? Maria just laughed, a sound full of relief and gratitude. You could say that. Thank you, from all of us. We thought no one was coming. The sergeant's smile softened. He looked past her, at the faces of the children now peering out from behind the adults, their eyes wide with awe. Ma'am, he said, his voice firm and unwavering. No colony is ever forgotten. No human is ever left behind. Sometimes, it just takes us a little while to get there. As the suns of Xylos set, the HCS Indomitable stood silent vigil in the sky, a promise made of steel and fire, a guardian howling from the void. For the people of New Haven, it was more than just a warship. It was hope incarnate.